Okay, friends, good evening. It's Unit 3, Lesson 13, and this is where all of our hard work for the entire unit is going to come together. We're going to do a big review on operations with fractions, and that means we're going to solve numerical and word problems involving all four operations. So we're going to add, we're going to subtract, we're going to multiply, and we're going to divide. So if you have classroom book page 101 and 102, I'm taking problems from there to do with you tonight so that you can just see some examples. So let's decide which operation to use, and then we're going to solve it. I'm going to do about 2 or 3 of these word problems with you, and hopefully we can get some of our thinking out on the table here. So let's look at the first one. Hala can ride her bike 7.5 miles in an hour. How far will she ride in 3 hours? How far will she ride in 1/3 of an hour? So both of these problems are going to be, I hear you saying it, multiplication. So Hala can ride her bike, so multiplication. There's 2 problems here. So the first one is how far will she ride in 3 hours? So we have 3 hours times 7.5 miles per hour. So in order for me to do this, the very first thing I have to do is what? I hear you saying it. Convert this into an improper fraction. So 2 times 7 is 14. Plus 1 is 15, so it's going to be 3/1 times 15 twos. So if I multiply across, I get 3 times 15 is 45, 2 times 1 is 2. I bring this back into a mixed number. In 3 hours, she's going to ride 22.5 miles, because 2 goes into 45 22 times with 1 remaining. Now, how far will she ride in 1/3 of an hour is also going to be multiplication, and it's going to be 1/3 of 7.5. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the same, having to put this 7.5 in a mixed fraction, or I'm sorry, improper fraction. So it's 1/3 times 15 2. And I like to do my simplifying before I multiply because it makes my life a little easier. So 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 into 5 goes twice with 1 remaining. So in 1/3 of an hour, she's going to go 2.5 miles. So if you need to press pause, hear it again, do it again, you can see that action again. So number 3, I'm going to do number 3. Mr. Dayton uses 8 cups of flour to make 3 identical loaves of bread. How much flour is in each loaf? Well, this sounds pretty division to me. And I think he's saying he has 8 cups of flour divided by 3. Well, we know that this, if I know the formula, N divided by D equals N times 1D, then I know the answer here. So I know that 8 divided by 3 is also 8 times 1/3, which I know is 8/3, which if I put this into a mixed number, 3 goes into 8 2 times with 2 remaining. So each loaf of bread is going to get 2 and 2/3 cups of flour. Okay, let's do number 6. Cassandra's fishbowl holds 9/10 gallons of water. It is now 2/3 full. How much water is in the bowl? So this is definitely going to be multiplication. And we want to know what 2/3 of 9/10 is. Because if we know what 2/3 of 9/10 is, we know how much is in the bowl. And again, I'm one of those girls, I'm going to rewrite this, that likes to reduce before we do the multiplying, just because it makes my world a little easier. 9/10. So I know that 2 becomes 1, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I can multiply and I don't have to reduce. It's going to be fantastic. 3/5 full, or 3/5 gallons. So those are some examples of multiplication and division. There are some addition ones in there, but it's just more of what we've been doing. So if we look over here, now we're going to practice. I want to do a couple of subtraction, a couple of addition, and because I feel like that's been a long time since we've done that. But we also I want to do like one of the harder multiplication and one of the harder divisions. So if I'm looking at this, I would like to do number 10, which is 1 5/12 plus 2 5/8. 1 5/12, 2 5/8. Can I just add this straight across? No, good job. So the first thing I need to do, addition and subtraction, anytime I need to find that common denominator. The common denominator here that I'm going to choose is 24. So times 2, times 2, times 3, times 3. So now I can add. So I have 25 24ths, and I add my whole number, 3. Am I done? Good job. No, I'm not done, Mrs. Crane, because my fraction part is improper. So I know that 24 goes into 25 one time with 1 remaining. So now this equals 1 1/24. So I have to add 3 plus 1, and my answer ends up being 4 1/24. The big thing to remember when you're adding or subtracting, you need to get that common denominator. We don't have to do that with multiplication or division, just addition and subtraction. So let's do a big subtraction problem. I'm going to do number 15. 2 3/5, make sure you write it correctly, take away 2 6/35. First things first, we need a common denominator. I'm going to go with 35 since it's all pretty and nice and set up for me. Times 7, times 7. 21 take away 6 is 15. 35ths. Subtract the 2's. That's going to be 0. The words here in the directions say simplest form, so we need to break this down. So I'm going to divide by 5. 3/7 is your answer. I want to do one where it's going to be a little lopsided. So I'm going to do number 18. 3 1/3, take away 1 3/4. First things first, we need a common denominator. So I'm going to go with 12 on this one, times 3, times 3, so 9/12, times 4. All right, so we're no longer looking at these fractions. We're just looking at these, 4/12 take away 9/12. Well, I can't take 9 from 4, so what do? I have to go over to this whole number and say, hey, can I take some? And they're like, sure. So we're going to add 1 whole to this fraction. So now you have 16 twelfths. You haven't changed the size of what you're talking about. You've just made it into an improper fraction, which is okay. 16 take away 9 is 7 twelfths. And 2 take away 1 is 3. But it's not 3, is it, friends? Mrs. Crane cannot subtract very well. Don't let a silly mistake like that be the reason you get it wrong. So what's 2 take away 1? Basic math, Mrs. Crane. Ay, ay, ay. 1, 7 twelfths. Okay, let's look at a division and a multiplication, and then we're going to call it a night. So if I'm looking at 1 7/8 times 3 2/5, do I need to get a common denominator? I hear you saying it. No! We just need improper fractions to multiply with, right? So 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 is 15/8. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17/5. Again, I like to reduce or simplify before I multiply, because I really don't want to multiply 15 times 17 personally. So 1 and 3. So 8 on the bottom, 17 times 3. 17 times 3 is 51. So I have to make this in simplest form. So 8 goes into 51 6 times with 3 remaining. So I'm going to do number 20, and then we're going to call it an evening. We will do the other parts of this, talking about the line plot and a little more practice in class tomorrow. But I put the formula up here, and honestly, having these formulas somewhere that you can find them or highlighted in your notebook would really help. But 1/9 divided by 3. If I'm going to plug this in, I would plug it in like so. So I know that my 3 is the W and my 1/9 is the 1D. So this is the same as saying 3 times 9. So the answer is going to be 27. So boys and girls, the biggest picture here is just we were reviewing, okay? Know those formulas for your division problems, multiply and straight across. Know that if you have a mixed number in multiplication, you need to make it improper before you can multiply. If you are adding or subtracting unlike denominators, you need a common denominator before you can add or subtract. Persevere. If you need to listen to any of these things, make sure your notes have at least the examples that I gave you tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.